The Pokemon Sword and Shield Direct just came out, and I am ready to have a Dynamax in good time. Whatever that means. Greetings, my friend. I am Sir Osborne, and welcome to a Thought of the Night on my impressions of the Pokemon Sword and Shield Direct. Before we get into things, just know that Thought of the Night is a series with very minimal visual editing, so feel free to work on something else while you listen along. You won't hurt my feelings one bit. Now then, up until today, I have had very in-check expectations for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I have not been getting my hopes up about anything, because based on the small trailer that we had before in February, I thought that this was just going to be a very simple Pokemon experience with some graphical upgrades and nothing more, and I didn't want to get my hopes up, hoping for something more interesting than what we might get. But I am so happy to say that this Pokemon Direct just absolutely blew my expectations out of the water. There is so much incredible looking stuff in this Direct. These games look amazing. I'm more excited for a Pokemon game than I have been in years. This is going to be something really, really awesome. There are just so many cool little things, so many big cool things. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about. So first and foremost, let's just get this out of the way. This game looks absolutely gorgeous. There's so many things. There's so many things. There is such an incredible sense of scale in this game. From these trailers, this is a sense of scale that we've never gotten in a Pokemon game before. We've always been very limited by the graphical capabilities of our handheld devices, but now that we're on the Switch, it is clear that they are trying to make the absolute most out of that hardware. The cities that you go to seem to have just massive buildings and just sprawling cityscapes, which is something we've never really seen in these games before. And when you're out in like the wild areas, there's such sprawling countrysides and just amazing vast hills, and I'm honestly having a hard time putting it all to words just because it's so absolutely flabbergasting how gorgeous everything looks and how impressive it all is. Like, the lighting looks really pretty too. Like, whenever they show the wild area at sunset, like, it looks so good. I'm so excited about the way that this game looks. Especially when it comes to gyms now. Gyms look like this new massive spectacle, which is what we've always really, wanted it to be. You know, because in the anime, gyms are a fairly big deal, and sometimes you get gyms where there are just tons of people watching. And that's always been a feeling that hasn't been possible to replicate due to the nature of the handheld devices that we had. But now, again, they are just making such an incredible use of the Nintendo Switch's power, and they are pushing it. They are trying to make this game the biggest that it can possibly be. I'm excited to go to a gym for once. I've never been, really excited to go to a Pokemon gym for a long time, for years. It's always just been oh, okay, I gotta go check this box so I can progress through the game. But no, now I am actively excited to go to a Pokemon gym, to have this massive spectacle of a battle. And it's gonna be, I hope that this is gonna be amazing. This is going to be an absolutely incredible experience. Oh, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, after they showed the new trailer for the game, they showed off a bunch of stuff in there, like the wild area, some new Pokemon and stuff. Then, we cut back, and we have an art director talking about the game. And I was really excited the moment that they mentioned that we were going to get to talk to an art director for a bit, because have we ever really gotten to talk to anybody who helps design the aesthetics of the games like this before? I'm sure that there have been some interviews in the past, but I don't think that anybody has ever been featured this prominently in a Nintendo Direct style announcement for a Pokemon game. And that's awesome. I always want to see more behind the scenes of how the Pokemon sausage gets made. How does all of this art come together? And being able to talk to one of the art directors and letting them get some recognition for all the hard work that they're putting in designing the world and these Pokemon was awesome. I was really, really glad to see that. Unfortunately, he didn't go too in-depth on the design aspects of the Pokemon, which I was kind of hoping for, but he did go over several new Pokemon in the game, and they, as far as I'm concerned, they all look really, really good. You could say that Wooloo is kind of like just a sheep, which it kind of is. I wish that it had like one more distinguishing feature, but it's honestly just so stinking cute. I don't even care. I don't care if it's just a sheep. It's so cute that I don't care. I want it. I want to snuggle it. I want to hug it. I want to love it forever. Wooloo is adorable. I don't care if it's just a sheep. It's an adorable just a sheep. And then we got Gossifleur and Eldegoss, which just look like really interesting new little grass-type Pokemon. I don't have a whole lot to say on those two, but I really like Gossifleur's like flowing hair thing, and I like the way it evolves into Eldegoss, and it feels just a little bit more regal. Corviknight looks so cool. It may be kind of stereotypically cool, but like, oh my gosh, this thing looks absolutely rad. It's a flying steel type, which is super cool. If this is like the equivalent of like the quote-unquote first bird Pokemon that we usually get in every Pokemon game, like this is a really cool first bird. And I'm looking at its page on the Pokemon Sword and Shield website right now, and this thing is 7 feet tall. That's it. What? Oh my gosh, this thing is incredible looking. I'm a big fan of Corviknight, and it has Knight in the name, so you know that I have to have one. I just have to use one on my team. Corviknight looks incredible, and like the fact that it's like a taxi service for the Galar region is so weird, because you don't look at this thing and think, ah, that's a taxi service. But like, it's, I don't know, it looks like reliable, and it looks like it's definitely gonna get you wherever you want to go, but I just found that to be really interesting and kind of strange. It's, oh god, I love Corviknight. Corviknight, so cool. I'm into Corviknight. Let's go. And then the last non-legendary Pokemon that they talked about was Dreadnought, and Dreadnought looks really cool too. I feel like they're finally really getting the hang of designing Pokemon for a 3D space. You know, because this thing just looks like it has so much texture to it. Like, its shell looks so rigid and interesting. I like its jaw. This is just a really cool new turtle Pokemon. We've had a lot of turtle Pokemon before. I'm glad that they're doing something a little bit different and interesting with it. It's another water rock type, which is cool. Dreadnought looks solid. I'm into Dreadnought. All of these Pokemon, all of the new Pokemon that we got, they all look really cool. I'm a big fan of what they're doing here with the Galar region so far. Just aesthetically, overall, all of the cityscapes that you see so far look absolutely astounding. All of the cityscapes that you see so far look just absolutely flooring. It looks like my jaw is gonna hit the ground as soon as I enter one of these places. They just look so massive and tall and impressive, and that's a feeling that I've wanted from a Pokemon game for so long now. And I'm glad that we're finally gonna get it. Oh my gosh. All of the aesthetics, super cool. Glad we got to talk to an art director for a bit. That was awesome. So, oh gosh, yes, more of this. Please, please, Game Freak, more of this. Alright, so, after the art director came on, then we came back and we talked about the wild area. And the wild area sounds super interesting. I don't know whether or not they're doing away with the concept of routes as a whole, and now they're just making large chunks of wild area in between several towns for you to explore, which I'm all for if that's the case. I think that'll kind of break up the linearity that Pokemon has fallen into the past, and gives it a much more explorative feeling where you can just go out into the wild and you can just explore to your heart's content. You just go around, you find Pokemon, and Pokemon are roaming again, just like in Let's Go. Like, I thought that was a feature that was not going to come at all, but no, Pokemon are roaming around the world, just doing their own thing and minding their own business. And that is awesome. That was, hands down, the absolute best feature of Pokemon Let's Go, and I am so glad that it's here. I'm so glad that it's here. And we don't know whether or not these roaming Pokemon are exclusively the way that you participate in wild Pokemon battles. Because I remember in the first trailer, it seemed like your player character was running around in the grass and then a random battle happened. So it might be a mixture of both, which I'm fine with if that's the case. I'm not opposed to both of those systems being in the game at the same time. I'm just so happy that roaming Pokemon are back at all. That's incredible to me, and I am so happy to see it. And also the wild areas just look really, really cool. For a minute when they were talking about it, I was a little worried that it was going to be a little bit basic and a little bit boring. I was thinking, oh no, are they going to do like a Hylian field or a Hyrule field kind of thing with this? Where it's, it's big and it's massive and it's impressive at first, but then it takes too long to get from place to place. It's a little bit empty when you actually try exploring things. And, it could still be some of those things, but it looks like it's going to be a really cool area to explore. In part due to the fact that there are roaming Pokemon, which makes, virtually every inch of the place something that is worth exploring. But, there's just so many things that it looks like that you can do. It looks like you can go fishing virtually anywhere that you want, that you just see water, you just go fishing. That's cool. It's just scattered in between places. You can shake down berry trees if you want to. It looks like so much cool stuff is in this area, and I'm all for it. There was even a little section where you're, riding your bike, and it has, floaties on its wheels for you to be able to ride on water, and, that just absolutely cracked me up, and that sold me on the game right. Just give me a bike riding on water simulator, and I'll buy it. It doesn't even have to have any Pokemon in it. Just give me that, and I'll buy it. It'll be amazing. But then they talked about what is possibly I don't even know what it is. Then they talked about what I think is going to be this game's really big hook. You know how X and Y had Mega Evolution, Sun and Moon had Z moves? Well, Sword and Shield have Dynamax. And, well, that's a name. Dynamax is a name. I don't know how to feel about it yet, but we'll see. But dude, Dynamax looks so cool. So basically you can just encounter gigantic Pokemon. When you're roaming around in the wild areas, you'll come across these hexagonal things that are shooting up pillars of light, and you can go into them, and you'll fight a massive Pokemon that's been given incredible strength. It's like a massive boss, and it looks absolutely astounding. When I saw that, I did not know how to react. That was, without a doubt, possibly the most incredible new idea presented in this direct. It looks so cool, because one of the other really cool things about Dynamaxing is that when you're fighting a wild Dynamax Pokemon, you can treat it as a raid boss. So you and 4 other trainers go into this Dynamax, and you fight the Pokemon. One of you can Dynamax your own Pokemon for 3 turns, and you have a chance to catch it. And it looks so cool. It looks so cool. We've never had anything like this in a Pokemon game before, and that's what's so exciting. There's so much new and interesting stuff. If you had told me in February, if you had told me, hey, Serge Osborne, Sword and Shield is going to be really cool because there's going to be 4-player co-op in massive raid battles. There's going to be co-op in your Pokemon game that isn't just, Pokemon Let's Go levels of co-op. And I would tell you that you were a fool. I would tell you that you were a witch, a charlatan, and I would tell you to get out of my life. And now I would have felt really bad, because it turns out that you're correct, and you're probably a really sweet person, and I like you. You can hang out. We can chill. But, the max raids just sound so cool. I'm going to be saying that a lot throughout this video, if you haven't caught on to that already. I'm going to be saying that is so cool so much, because there's just so much cool stuff in here. Who knows, how good any of it will actually feel once we have the game in our hands, but, right now I'm floored. All of this stuff is just so cool. It feels like they're really flexing their creative muscles, and that is so good to see. And one more thing about Dynamaxing too. It turns out that during gym battles, the gym leader will be able to Dynamax their Pokemon for 3 turns, which is awesome. And you can also Dynamax your Pokemon for 3 turns. And that's so cool. You can just have these giant Pokemon fights. And that's, oh my gosh, it's so flooring. It means that, I think that may be the reason why, gyms are so huge this time around. Because, there needs to be, like, literal physical space for your huge Pokemon to duke it out. Which is awesome. I am so happy to see that. Like, oh my gosh. Gym battles are going to be amazing. Gym battles are going to be better than they have ever been in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I am 100% sold on that. That's going to be awesome. Like, Totem Pokemon were interesting in Sun and Moon, but I don't feel like they were incredibly well executed. It didn't always feel like you were really accomplishing something awesome when you were taking down a Totem Pokemon, but this just looks like the next evolution of that, and it looks like they are going in a fantastic direction with it. I am so absolutely excited to see this evolution of Pokemon as a series, and it looks so cool. It looks so cool. All right, and you know what else looks cool? The characters. After they talked about all the Dynamaxing stuff, they were like, all right, now we got to show you some of the characters that you're going to find on your journey. And first, they showed off the champion, Leon. And Leon looks so cool. I love the way Leon looks. Like, you can definitely expect a characterized episode on this guy after the game's release. I'm not going to release a characterized episode about any of these Pokemon or characters before the game's release, because I want the full context when I'm analyzing the design. I want the full context of the game and everything. But there might be some videos just talking about my general impressions, because, oh my god, there's so many cool looking designs in this game. Oh, Leon looks so rad. I especially love his, like, cape thing. It looks very Lance-esque, and I am all down for that. Oh, Leon looks so cool. I am a little bit worried that his personality might be a little bit boring. Like, his description on the Pokemon website reads, Leon is the current champion of the Galar region, and has never been defeated in an official Pokemon battle. His personality, together with his peerless skill, has made him extremely popular. He truly deserves the title of the greatest trainer in all of Galar. And that description has me just a little bit worried that he might be a little bit boring, just kind of generic, just a generic champion in terms of personality, but I'm really hoping that's not the case. And, I don't want to judge too much until I do have the actual game in my hands. But as far as appearance goes, oh my god, Leon looks rad. Leon looks so cool. I'm down for Leon. Leon might be one of my favorite champions ever. We'll see what happens. And then we have Leon's little brother, our rival, Hop. Which, like, Hop is an interesting name. I'm no judging. Just an interesting name. I kind of like it. Unfortunately, it looks like our rival isn't going to be the jerk that a lot of us had hoped for. It looks like we're in for another very nice and pleasant rival, which means he probably won't be too memorable in some ways. But he is Leon's younger brother, and that could lead to some really interesting story stuff. We'll see. Only time is going to tell for sure. And I really like Hop's design too. I love his like little coat with all the like fur and stuff in it. It's so cool. I like it. I'm a big fan of it. Like, I already like Hop a lot more than I liked How. Hop just looks a lot more interesting to me personally. But yeah, no, his description is pretty milquetoast, unfortunately. There's not really anything worth examining there, but I really hope the fact that he is the younger brother of the champion is going to lead to some really interesting character stuff for him. Even if it doesn't even if it's not like a big overarching story thing, I just hope that he's an interesting character because of that relationship. Speaking of interesting characters, we have Professor Magnolia, who is just one of the sweetest old ladies I've ever seen. I was curious to see what they were going to do with the professor design this time around, Because, you know, like, Kukui was a really memorable professor. Kukui is probably one of the better parts of Sun and Moon, and I was really curious to see how they were going to follow that up, and I'm really excited to see that they went with this route. We've only had one female professor before, ever, in a mainline Pokemon game, and that was back in Gen 5, and now we have another female professor. And it's really nice, too, because she's a little on the older side of things, which is perfectly okay. Like, that just makes her more interesting and diverse compared to the rest of the lineup. Like, we've had a couple of other, like, quote-unquote, like, old Pokemon professors before. You know, like, Professor Oak is kind of old. How old he looks kind of varies from game to game sometimes, but lately they've been making him seem a little bit towards the elderly side. And then Rowan, we're not sure if Rowan is really, like, old, or if he's just kind of grizzled and gray in terms of appearance, you know? So, it's nice to see that they're going with this kind of a route. I really like her yellow shirt underneath of her lab coat, really pops, I like it. I love her cane, too. I think that's a Corviknight on her cane. If not, then I'm really curious to see what Pokemon that is. But, like, oh my god, Professor Magnolia seems like such a sweetheart. I am super excited to see her. And she's studying Dynamaxing, which means that Dynamaxing is going to be like a big gimmick of the game. It's going to be like the big focus of it, which I am all down for, because Dynamaxing looks so cool, because I haven't said that 1,000 times. But yeah, no, Professor Magnolia, super cool. Super cool looking professor. And then lastly, there is the granddaughter of Professor Magnolia, Sonia. I'll go ahead and read her description here for you real quick. Sonia is the granddaughter of Professor Magnolia, and she's Leon's childhood friend. She's also a young researcher who serves as assistant to Professor Magnolia. She's very knowledgeable and will offer helpful advice to aid you on your adventure. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have a character who is related to two other major characters on your journey, Professor Magnolia and Leon, which means that she'll hopefully have a lot of really interesting character interactions to do. Hopefully she'll be a very fun character to follow, and not too... I just hope she's not boring. That's what I hope for. And the fact that she is Leon's childhood friend means that there's another connection for Leon. If Leon is like one of the focal points of the game, then that will lend itself to Leon being a more interesting character, hopefully. Hopefully there is like a lot of stuff for Leon to do, hopefully there's a lot of stuff for Leon to interact with, and hopefully Sonia plays a big part in that. Sonia has a really likable design. I'm a big fan of like her turquoise boots and shirt contrasting with her red hair a little bit. I like her sunglasses. Sonia's a cool looking character. I really like her. I really hope that Sonia ends up being interesting. Only time will tell, of course, but right now, I am really optimistic. And there was one other character, actually. We got our look at our very first gym leader. And Milo looks super cool. I really like Milo. He's got like a Krillin-esque no-nose thing going on, which like correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think Pokemon has done that with one of its human characters before. I don't think that they have. Like, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But like, I'm a big fan of that. It already makes him look a little bit more interesting. His body shape is like, he's like clearly very like strong and reliable, but he's also very like, he looks a little like short and squat in some ways, which is like, that's really cool. I love his big hat. I love his pink hair. Like green, white, and pink is like, that's a great color scheme as far as I'm concerned. Like some people don't like green and pink together. I like it. It's super cool. Milo looks really, really cool as far as I'm concerned. He's one of the more interesting looking first Pokemon gym leaders that I think we've had in a long time. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited. I'm super excited. That's all I'm super excited. Milo has me super excited. Leon has me super excited. Sonia has me super excited. Everything has me just super excited. Okay, so after we got through all of the characters and everything, then we got the Legendaries. And the Legendaries, I don't know how to feel about them yet. I really don't know how to feel about them quite yet. I definitely don't hate them. I don't know how much I like them overall quite yet. But let's talk about them first. So they revealed the Pokemon for Pokemon Sword version, Zacian, and the Pokemon for Shield version, Zamazenta. And these two, I wasn't sure what to expect out of the legendaries this go around. The fact that there were, like, wolves on the logos implied that they were going to be, like, very wolf-based Pokemon. I wasn't quite expecting this, though. Zamazenta, in particular, looks a little bit more like a lion. I do really like the idea of, like, his mane being a shield, basically. Like, that's super cool. And Zacian looks really interesting. I don't know. Because, like, part of me is, like, these guys really pop on their own. They have a really great primary color scheme with the red, yellow, and blue. They look really cool, but I don't want this to sound, like, negative or, like, clickbaity or anything. I don't want it to sound like I'm, like, complaining. They look a little bit... they look a little bit samey. And I don't mean that in, like, an awful way. I just mean, like, these two Pokemon look very similar. Samey probably isn't a good word for it. These Pokemon look very similar. And I don't know how effective of a choice that is yet. I need more context for these Pokemon first to see whether or not that is a good design choice in the long run, but I think it might hurt them a little bit in terms of advertising, kind of, because, you know, the Pokemon Legendaries go on the box. These two are our box Legendaries, and they're supposed to kind of differentiate each game a little bit. These two look very similar, and I think that might hurt the games in terms of branding just a bit. I mean, like, trust me, these games are gonna sell like gangbusters, like, no matter what. But I don't think this is the most effective choice that they could have gone with right now. I don't think that right now. We're gonna see. I need some time to explore these Pokemon a little bit. I need to know more about them. I need to see what their deal is. But right now, I do feel like the fact that they are a little bit similar might be a poor decision overall. That being said, though, they do have some interesting differences. Zamazenta is a lot more saturated in its color scheme, it looks like. Meanwhile, Zacian is a little bit more pastel-esque. You know, it's got a lot, it's less saturated. It's got a lighter color scheme to it. Plus, while Zamazenta has its main being a shield, basically, Zacian just has a sword in its mouth, which is an interesting choice. I feel like I may have preferred Zacian having, like, a sword-like mane. Like, Zamazenta's shield mane kind of comes out on its sides, so maybe Zacian could have, like, a sword-like mane coming up over its head, maybe, like, kind of Mohawk style, I don't know. But these two do have some interesting differences to one another. Like, Zamazenta is clearly a lot more bulky. Its shield-like mane really cements it like that, and its saturated color scheme makes it feel a lot more solid and grounded. Meanwhile, Zacian has a much more fluid design, basically. It feels like it's a lot more nimble. And in the trailer that we see, it does a lot more jumping around and aerial stuff, and, you know, I think that's really fitting. So these Pokemon aren't, like, poorly designed by any means, and they do have some really interesting differences. But only time is going to tell whether or not making these two so similar is a good choice in the long run. Because, you know, I mean, when you think about all of the box legendaries that we've had, each set of box legendaries, each of the Pokemon has been pretty well distinct from one another. I mean, Ho-Oh and Lugia, those two don't look anything alike. Kyogre and Groudon, those two look nothing alike. Dialga and Palkia are very differentiated. Reshiram and Zekrom had similar body types, which played into their lore, but other than that, they were incredibly different. Xerneas and Yveltal are just absolutely different, and Solgaleo and Lunala are like night and day, pun entirely intended. So this is the first time that we've had two box legendaries that look this similar to each other, which again, might not be a bad thing in the long run. I'm really interested to see what led them to this choice. Because usually there is a much bigger differentiation between the two, because they usually want to sell some sort of a sense of conflict between the two. Not always, but usually. But since these two look so similar, I'm wondering if they'll have more of a partnership kind of thing going on. Again, only time will tell. I know I've said that just about as many times as I've said this looks so cool, and these guys do look so cool. Like, each of these guys on their own, I would be like, that looks really cool. That looks so cool. When you put them together, it's just an interesting choice to make them look this similar. I've probably rambled on about this long enough, but again, these guys look really cool. Shield main, sword mouth, like, let's go. Like, these guys are gonna be awesome. I have no doubt in my mind that these two are going to be some awesome, awesome Pokemon. Zacian, Zamazenta, I'm into it. Alright, so, after we got the Legendaries, then we got the box art and a release date. And the box art is, weirdly enough, probably the most disappointing thing about this game so far. I don't know why. I'm always really, like, hypercritical of Pokemon box art specifically. Like, I'm always, like, a little bit critical of box art. Maybe I'll make a video talking about it at some point. But, like, Pokemon box art specifically, I feel like has gotten... I don't want to say that it's gotten, like, lazy, but I feel like they've kind of accepted the rut that they've found themselves in, where it's just like, we have our 2 Legendaries, we put them up there and ship them out, you know? I was really curious to see what they were going to do this time around, since this is their first time in years working with a box that is much more rectangular in nature rather than the more square look of, like, Game Boy covers and DS covers and 3DS covers. So I was really curious to see what they were going to do. And I know it's weird, but I am more disappointed with the box art than anything else, that's good. That's good. If I'm going to be disappointed with anything from these games, I would rather it be the box art than, like, some major plot detail or some major gameplay feature. Like, everything about the actual game looks so cool. I don't think the box art reflects it very well. And that's a shame to say, you know, because I really like... I like box art, you know? I like artistic elements in games. I was really hoping for something interesting, just a little bit refreshing. Maybe even just, like, a more interesting background for the games. But, yeah, the box art is pretty boring. And I think it, again, kind of brings out why maybe having Zacian and Zamazenta being so similar might not be a good idea, because, like, the 2 versions of the game aren't very well differentiated from each other just from the box art, you know? Like, I'm personally not a big fan of the Sword and Shield logos as a whole. I don't think that they work very well. That's a video for another day, though. And that compiled with the fact that, you know, Zacian and Zamazenta are similar-looking Pokemon, and the fact that the box art is unambitious, we'll say, makes it just, like, this is what people are going to see in the store, and they're gonna walk by and they're gonna be like, oh, that's that Pokemon game that I've been hearing so much about. That's Pokemon Sword and Shield. Why does everybody like it so much? That doesn't look very interesting. That just looks like a couple of wolves standing around. Like I've got a video coming out later on Solgaleo and Lunala and about how those two made pretty effective box art. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But yeah, I don't like the box art. That's the one thing about this that I can say I just don't like it. And we don't know if this is the final box art yet or not. We really don't know. This could just be a placeholder image, which I really, really hope that it is. Like, when Breath of the Wild was revealed, we got, like, some quote-unquote box art for that, and it was not incredibly impressive at all. It wasn't, like, awful, but it just wasn't impressive. But then they changed it up for the official release, and they gave us one of the best box arts, like, ever. Like, ever. The Breath of the Wild box art that we got is so good. So I do have my fingers crossed that something similar happens here, but it will, again, only time will tell. This is the one thing about the game where I cannot say this looks so cool. So So, this does not look so cool. But we also got a release date, and it is November 15th, and I am so excited. Like, oh my gosh, we are less than 6 months away from these games. We're barely over 5 months away. This is incredible. I am so excited. I'm so excited. I've never been this excited for a Pokemon game in my life. I honestly don't know if I ever have been. These games look amazing, and they're releasing some kind of a double pack, which will hopefully be a good deal. Fingers crossed. We'll see. Because I'm the kind of sucker who usually buys both versions of a Pokemon game because, we'll, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, like, I think that's a solid release date. I think that's a super solid release date. It doesn't feel too late. I was hoping that it wasn't going to be late November. I think that this is a good, solid release date. They're going to get in plenty of sales for the holiday. They'll get in plenty of sales at launch. It's going to be... I think that this is just a good decision overall. So that's everything that was covered in this Direct. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. This was incredible. This was so cool. This was so cool. This was so cool, guys. Like, oh my gosh. I can't even speak. It's so cool looking. Dynamaxing, Leon, Zacian, and Zamazenta. It's all so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool. So, that being said, I do have just a couple other things to talk about. Let's see here. Trainer customization got confirmed. Because, you have several different player characters doing the raid battle, and some of them are dressed differently. And, like, I am so excited for the trainer customization in this game. Like, ooh. I really hope that there are some good options. I think there will be. Like, just given, like, the character designs so far, I think that there are going to be some really interesting clothing items. And I already really like the base of the player characters. I think that they're some of the most interesting looking player characters that we've gotten so far. But I'm really excited to see what all the customization options are. That's going to be great. Also, I didn't talk about this in the wild area section, but does the fact that you can do 4 players versus 1 Dynamax, does that mean that if you're, like, hooked up to online, does that mean that you're just going to find other trainers just roaming around the wild areas? Because if so, that would be incredible. That would be so cool. That would be so cool. Like, oh my gosh. Can you imagine, like you're just online, you're just playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, you go out into the wild areas, and there are like 20 other trainers just running around. Just 20 other player-controlled trainers running around, and, like, you could battle with them or trade with them on the spot. We don't know if that's the case. We don't know if this is the case. But honestly, with the way that it looked, the way that it seems like you enter Dynamaxes together, like, the way that you enter max raids together, rather, it looks like that might be the case. And if so, then that might be one of the absolute coolest features of the entire game. I really, really hope we get something like that, because that would be incredible. That would be like people are always like, why don't we have like a Pokemon MMO? And that would be like the closest thing to a Pokemon MMO that we've gotten in that we'll ever have. And it'll be awesome. It would be so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one other thing. The UI, the little bits that we saw of the user interface, it looks really sleek and nice and simple. I was really worried that the UI was gonna get like really like gaudy, because like I'm not a huge fan of like the kind of over colorfulness of the UI in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon especially. So I was really worried that they were going to keep going and just keep making it more and more bright and kind of distracting. But no, they seem to have pulled back, and they're giving us a very simplistic layout, just very nice, just solid, sleek colors that clearly communicate what everything needs to communicate, and that is great. It looks so cool. It looks so cool. Oh, God, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. All right, and one more thing, just one more thing before we go off. I am really glad that this Direct didn't show off too much. I am really glad that I feel like this Direct didn't show us too much. I'm glad that they didn't reveal that much. I went into this hoping like, okay, let's get some basic gameplay features, give us the big hook for the game, because, you know, we need that, like, ASAP, so that way we know what we're getting into, what's the big theme. I wanted some more regular Pokemon, and then maybe the box legendaries and box art and release date. And lo and behold, that's what we got. We got good hooks, we got good characters, we got good Pokemon, we got a release date, and we didn't get anything. We don't know what the evil team is, if there is one. We don't know too much about, like, the overarching plot. We don't know that much, which is good, which means that there's still a lot of hype that they can fill these next 5.5 months with. They didn't reveal too much, so I'm excited. I am so excited. This Direct was exactly what I needed. I had been feeling kind of burnt out on Pokemon for a year or two now. Like, I just wasn't very impressed with Sun and Moon. I was very underwhelmed with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And, oh my gosh. Oh, this looks so cool, guys. It looks so cool. This looks like exactly what I needed right now. It looks like they are putting a fresh coat of paint on the Pokemon franchise. It really looks like they are leaning into a sense of spectacle and wonder, which is amazing. Like, it looks so amazing. There are so many cool, good choices being made here. I am eagerly excited for more. I'm not exaggerating at all. I'm not exaggerating at all when I say that I am more excited for this game than I have been excited for a Pokemon game in years. I don't know if I've ever been this excited for a Pokemon game now. There is so much interesting stuff here. It looks like it's still Pokemon at its core, but that they are expanding on things. They're making things bigger. They're making things better. They're making things more interesting. They're doing away with some of the stuff that has annoyed us in the past. They're doing away with the linearity of routes, and instead they're giving us large, wild areas to explore. They're doing away with the simplicity of gyms, and they're turning them into massive spectacles where it's like a sporting event. You go in and you fight, and you do it for entertainment. And it's, oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff here. There is so much good stuff. It looks so cool, guys. It looks so cool. But what do you guys think about the Sword and Shield Direct? Like, honestly, what do you think? I need to know your thoughts. Comment down below. Like, I need to have a discussion about all of this cool stuff. Like, just comment down below with your single favorite thing, your single 3 or 5 or 10 favorite things about this Direct, or did you hate it? If you hated it, let me know down below. I don't know how anybody could hate this, but if you did, let me know down below. Because, oh my gosh, this game, guys. Also, shameless self-plug, I've got a lot of other Pokemon videos coming out. I've got a review of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee coming out sometime soon. So, you know, subscribe if you don't want to miss that. And, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble about Pokemon for so long. Just thank you for listening. Until next time, stay wonderful, stay creative, stay hyped for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and game with honor.